So hello everyone. We will start in a few minutes. Just wanted to check out the audio and if everything's working. And thanks for being online already, and we'll hear you in a second.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take away. I'm a hot air balloon, never go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got, don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, the love is too high. Bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, I said, take now. Bring me down, can't nothing.
So we're just waiting one more minute until everybody's logged on, and then we'll start with this webinar with EULAR today.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't nothing. Bring me down, and love is too.
So welcome everybody again for this webinar today that is hosted by LearnChamp. Great that you found the time. Today's very interesting topic is EULAR and its initiative around the School of Rheumatology. I hope I spelled that correctly. And we are glad to have two speakers here today that I'll show through screen sharing for a second. Here they are. Pleasure having you and hosting you. This is Jen from EULAR and Georgi from LearnChamp. And first question will be, can you introduce yourself just up at the beginning?
Ladies first.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jen Genevieve. I started working for EULAR in 2017. My position there is to restructure and bring in new strategy for EULAR. And now I'm restructuring the school. So.
Hi, I'm Georgi Dimitrov, working for a long time for LearnChamp. I'm the technical lead at LearnChamp and also project leader for the European School of Rheumatology on our side. So we'll give you some insights.
Yeah, great that you're here. And because I'm not as beautiful as the two speakers, I'm sitting behind the laptop and we'll switch off the camera for now. So great that we have that practical insight into how that initiative has played out. And before we do that, just a quick introduction also on the organizational level. So could you please tell us a little bit about EULAR, Jen, for everybody who's not so familiar with the brand maybe?
Yeah, so EULAR stands for the word European League Against Rheumatism. Yeah, and we have a specific name. Rheumatism is just a medical name. It is actually, technically speaking, we call it rheumatic and musculoskeletal diseases. So it is diseases that is not just about rheuma, everybody knows this, but it's also about the muscles, shrinking of muscles, and defects on the bones that are lumped together as a disease. And we, as the European League, come together with volunteers from the health professional, from the doctors, the undergraduates, and of course patients, people who had these diseases, all come together as one, as a whole European League to fight against these diseases, to bring awareness to people. And basically we also provide then different pillars that comes under EULAR.
So that's a great mission. Thanks for the introduction. And Georgi, could you just tell us a little bit about LearnChamp?
LearnChamp has been founded in 2001 as a startup. Maybe the word wasn't so famous at this time. Nevertheless, we are a young company working with a lot of young people in all of our teams. We're a digital learning provider. We cover the concept, the producing, and also hosting and architecture of digital learning solutions. As you see on the presentation, we're a Totara Platinum partner. In this webinar, we will talk a lot about Totara. We're since the beginning with Totara together, and actually since the beginning also with Adapt tutoring, which is maybe the most advanced tool for building e-learning content right now. And it's open source, and we're part of the steering committee of Adapt. So I'm glad that we can present you some insights. What can you do with these both tools?
So thanks for that introduction. So two open source tools, basically for learning management and authoring. We're going to hear a bit more about that. But before we come to that, so let's talk about the School of Rheumatology. So what was the overall goal of the project, Jen? Could you just give us some insight on that?
So as I've mentioned, we are the European League Against Rheumatism. And within EULAR, we have many departments, many pillars that work together with one common goal: to bring awareness about this disease and how to self-manage this disease and how to bring people along. So my first project when I joined EULAR was to structure the school. And our mission for the school was to become a worldwide leader in education in the field of rheumatology. And by the way, EULAR has existed for more than 72 years and counting. Yeah. And school was developed about, say, 12 years ago. And back then you would probably think, okay, understanding diseases, it's all about doctors, but it's not. We provide education not just for doctors, but for undergraduates who has no idea which disease should I choose: GP, should I choose cardiology, should I choose epidemiology. But we try to fight the awareness that more doctors join in the field of rheumatology because it's big. It's not just about rheuma, but about musculoskeletal diseases as well. So this is what we're trying to build here, and that was our goal. But in order to reach that goal, we had to change. We cannot live with old technology where we used to have, okay, log in, here's your PDF, download it, read the 1,000 pages and do this exam, and then you're done. We cannot not follow up with the new trend. So my first project was to find means and ways to improve current educational offers. And we, of course, went through many tenders and LearnChamp came up with Totara as product and finally fought through. I'm sure Georgi has went through a long way with us.
It was a short process actually, but we'll talk about it a bit later.
So very different pictures of the work.
And so, that was the goal, and this was our project.
Right.
And this LearnChamp won the tender. As we are non-profit, it's very open. We have a tender made, and LearnChamp won the tender, and now we are using Totara for a year, counting, and we are planning for phase 2. So this is our challenge that we'd like to talk about.
Very interesting. And you also already mentioned a few of the target groups. Basically, can you just give us more insight? You mentioned doctors already and different others. So what would be the target group of that new learning initiative in the school?
The school has always targeted at all these 4 pillars. They are most of our strong pillars. We believe, of course, doctors are our main target, because doctors are the ones that are busy. And if everyone would know, in Europe, in order to keep your medical license, in order to practice in the field, you need to gather a certain amount of credits and additional continuous learning in order to keep their medical licenses. So this is where we come in. We provide them latest information from throughout the whole Europe. What was the latest technology now? Is there a new medication that is ready for them? What is the best level of medication that the person should use and practice on the patients? And how are the latest new decisions? What are the recommendations? And this is what we do with the physician. Of course, then we cannot forget about our health professionals. They are a very big pillar of our lives. You don't just go to see a doctor, but you also see a therapist. You see what do we call that? Someone who helped you to practice your muscles when you are losing them. The nurses, etc. Those people that are around the big scope, other than the doctors, we also have to educate them and teach them what is the latest recommendations. As we all know now, patients need this support. We need to harmonize a standard. Maybe you go to Eastern European, you are treated differently as a same patient than if you are in the Central Europe. And this is what our goal is, to try to harmonize these particular standards by providing a European standard of education. And of course, we would like to build an awareness. People must come to learn about rheumatologists in order to have more doctors, in order to have more health professionals interested in this disease. We attract students at their undergraduate level to join us, understand the education. It's important. And of course, we have our patient who sadly has to live with this disease. It's very sad, but we provide the positive side to them. We create educational materials to teach them, hey, yes, you have to live with this disease until the day you die in pain, but there is a better solution. You can work on how to self-manage yourself. What are the tips? What happens if your doctor tells you this? Perhaps you could suggest this, and many other shared decision making in medication and therapy. So they come on board, look for those free learning materials on our website, and bring it back to them. So we could try to harmonize that everyone with this disease can have the same treatment and can have the same knowledge, and that they should not be afraid, because we are here for them.
Right. Great. So this is not about your own stuff, basically, like we see it in many other projects, companies that have employees and just train them. So it's a very diverse target group at the end of the day. They are not obliged to do it. For example, the patients you mentioned, what do you need to keep in mind to be attractive as a learning solution for such an audience, such a diverse audience?
So like I've said, when I joined EULAR, we had a very old-fashioned way, and most of our target group was really on physician. And we have a long list of videos that are made from other societies or other freelance people for the patients, and they are very diverse. There was no right strategy to target the right target groups. So now that we have found our new system, this is what we plan to revise all our existing content, but to put them in smaller packages and in a different didactic way for the different target groups. Just for a very big example, comparing physicians to patient. I speak about scientific facts with physician, but I speak about points and tips for patients. And the way we say the same thing can be said differently. And this is why we need to have the latest technology to help us to grow in this direction. And we have come a long way from there, even though it's a short year, but and we are working towards that. Yes.
Yeah, great. Sounds great. So, Georgi, a question to you also. As far as I know, there has been a payment system also that has been introduced. I mean, we're going to look at the solution later on also, but could you just give us a little more information about the payment side?
Jen already mentioned the different target groups, also the aim of using the latest technology. For some target groups, there are some special perks and different membership models also in the system. Also for the online courses, there is a price to pay as NGO. That's as NGO of EULAR, that's not a big price to pay, but it has to be managed some way. So we choose PayPal for that because we are covering the whole world right now. We have a huge audience coming from Asia and from Africa also. The surprising part for me was, as part of the project, EULAR has to offer lower prices for people coming from countries with lower GDP. So the whole structure behind that was a very, very complex one, and we'll look at that later. It's very interesting for us as a company to do this project, not only technically, but structuring the whole thing is being very very good implementation for us.
Yeah, this is one thing I like to add, which is cool, because our project gave a great challenge for LearnChamp that on top of being a good learning management system, they have to satisfy that they have to collect a little small fees. But people might think, okay, collecting small fees is like Amazon, it's easy, but actually there is much more technical behind, because we are a non-profit organization. We have to, for instance, many people say, oh, you're building the school, oh, but you are earning money. Actually, we are not. It is a very, very low fee that we collect in order to keep the system running.
The member price right now is how much? 30
euros.
30 euros. So
it's really nothing.
It's 2 kebabs in Zurich, maybe.
Yes, 2 kebabs in Zurich. Yes, indeed. And what I must say is, we not only have prizes for the members, LearnChamp managed to give us the possibility to even identify where this person comes from in the world, and they receive very big rebates for their courses. So it's not, like I said, I have to advocate that we are a non-profit organization. So we recognize that people from India may not have the same paying capacity as people who is coming from Central Europe, for instance. And maybe later Georgi can show you how our tool actually worked, but they were able to build something that could recognize these and then help those patients that are around the world with lesser paying power to even save more, and not that we are forced to tell them, I'm sorry, you only can pay 30 euros and that's it, which was good.
You do have a mixture, right, of learning formats and media. I think you've touched already on a few of them. Do you want to give a little bit insight on this, or do we see this in the solution demo anyway?
We'll see it also in the solution, but the mixture was the whole digitalization process for EULAR is still going on. It's an ongoing process. It never will be finished, because that's a science. It will change. New things will be found on the way. Also, having a standard for, as Jen said, for most of the countries is very important. And EULAR is trying with the School of Rheumatology to set up an example for other organizations like EULAR in other areas. And the mixture was chosen as part of the process. Actually, at the beginning, we'll show it also later. At the beginning, we were talking only about the learning management system as such, and not of the contents came later as a topic together with EULAR. But it's quite a good mixture of, let's say it in our language, blended learning. So we have online courses and publications, which will be more and more in the coming months. We have the live courses of EULAR, which are now managed differently than in the previous systems, because there were 2 or 3 systems managing these live courses. And we have a lot of printed publications coming from different professors and universities from the whole world. The aim was to give them quick access to the most important thing, and the right way was using digital learning for that. And the tool was chosen later is Adapt. So Adapt fits very well in this area, and we'll see later how exactly we use Adapt.
Right. So if you can tell us a bit about the solution also, and I know that people are keen on the demo.
We're talking and showing nothing. Yeah.
It's all good, but what was the objective of the solution overall? I don't know who wants to take this, Jen or Georgi.
As in for the school, I asked from Georgi, I asked from LearnChamp that our system from the older version was not responsive. It wasn't easy, because in order to study or read or learn, you have to first download a VLC media player, you have to download the HTML player, you have to have Adobe Reader, etc. And just before a learner can start really learning, he or she must already download 4 to 5 applications on their browser in order to learn. And there was no possibility for them basically to follow a structure. They could click through whatever they want. So there was no control of what they were supposed to do. Of course, there was a structure. There was a very strict structure that we have to follow. But we cannot control, we cannot study, we cannot understand how long the doctors have stayed on one particular page. Was it because the question was too difficult? Was it because the text was practically too long? There was no way we can track this in order to get better.
Right.
And the solution worked from LearnChamp was the main aim was that it has to be responsive.
So run on any device?
Yeah, it runs on any device. I don't have to download VLC. I don't have to download these. It just opens. Yeah. We are a long way to reach there. We are halfway there, but almost there. That it's easy to use. One login. It used to be that several logins are needed. First, they have to register. That's one login. And then after that, they have to register in another older system. That's another login.
Even regarding the login, people who have a membership in the system can use the EULAR app via single sign-on. That's something more technical, but if you're a member of the School of Rheumatology, you can use the app of EULAR pretty easy with your credentials. And we're working on more solution towards single sign-on also for the Congress system, together with the Congress system in the future. And the aim was, of course, let's give the people who are using the system a good learning experience and good user experience in the system.
Right.
When we think about academies, you talked a bit before that. Academy is something that we in our company have to build, have to have, and I have to make my learning, and I have to make it. I don't want to make it in some cases. The people are pushed, and in this case, the target groups should feel attracted to the solution. I want to learn on my way to work. I want to read about the newest trends on my way to work or at home on my iPad. So anywhere, anyhow, you're provided with the option to use the system.
So I think what will be great, can we have a look at the solution?
Yep.
Just to switch to that and have a look into that and then see how we got there basically. So I hope the screen sharing works for everyone. I'm basically emulating this on my PC. Please give us a shout out if you don't see the screen from Georgi right now. It's his mobile phone.
It's an Android mobile phone I'm using for this presentation. You can use anything really, and it looks even better on an iPad because most of the universities and the health care organization have tablets right now for learning and for their daily work. And that's the landing page of the solution. There we have a lot of information, what's trending, what's the school for. You can get the information in one glimpse. Also, the highlights of the months are there, the most important, and the trending courses and the trending offers coming from EULAR School of Rheumatology. For example, I subscribe for the online course on imaging in RMDs. I don't know what that is in the science language, but it looks pretty interesting after we log in. On the landing page, the aim was just to put the most important information. Don't put everything. As you see, that's the end here. There are only 6 offers we would like to show to the user, but he can easily navigate to the login and log in as such. That's my test user we're gonna use. But if I don't have a membership, if I don't have a profile in the system, I can choose to have one from the registration page. And that's where we get all the information from the users, because we have so much target group, so much countries we have to cover. We needed this information. And Totara give us the option to use kind of registration that's needed for the School of Rheumatology. Just the standard fields like username and password will gonna be skipped, but that's something very interesting here is the selecting my position. I can choose between different positions, and beneath them I can choose from further positions. That's something only LearnChamp is doing with Totara. I must say we're extending the possibilities of Totara, not choosing only one position, but choosing from a tree of positions. So if I'm a physician, I can choose to be physician and then rheumatologist, and then as a rheumatologist I can be in teaching, or I can be just a doctor specialized in other fields, and then goes on and goes on. EULAR is also collecting your mailing addresses because you're able to buy books directly in the system, and these books will be delivered as part of the offers of the School of Rheumatology to you. So we have, of course, your addresses. Everything is GDPR compliant, I have to say. Totara is GDPR compliant since May 2018, and there are a lot of other fields. And then comes the I can choose to be a learner, which will be free for me as such, or I can choose to be a member. Paying only the 30 euros, I'll just get a lot more possibilities in the system. And choosing to be a member, here comes PayPal. I can pay everywhere in PayPal. I think only in Iran and some other country wasn't. So 2 or 3 countries in the world where I cannot use PayPal. That's why we choose PayPal and not some other way of paying with it.
So PayPal means you can also pay with credit card, or
you can pay directly, as you see here, with your credit card. You don't need PayPal account. So we're using the newest PayPal possibility for paying. That's something that LearnChamp also developed as a plugin for EULAR. And when I say plugin and new possibilities, you should have in mind that nothing is part of the core code of the system. The system is ready to be updated coming in January with the newest version.
So just because everybody's listening in, I think you're very deep in the topic. So
yeah.
You know Totara well, Jen knows Totara, but Totara is like a learning management system, and everything that we see here is based on that, and it's basically with plugins for payment and other things, but it all works natively in that open source LMS, right?
All works natively. I should say about 80% is standard Totara. Of course, the design is something that's special for EULAR, but about 80% is Totara and 20% are the payment and the membership options. We build it also. The option to apply for grants is built by LearnChamp. But when we register right now, I don't have the money to pay in the webinar for membership, but I already skipped it because I have insiders there, and I'm already on my dashboard as a learner. So a lot of users were requiring dashboard as a top priority because we need somewhere everything we do in the system, somewhere to find everything we do in the system, the most relevant things for us. And because I already bought the imaging course, we can go in it. As you see, it's just the newest design trend implemented for EULAR. We can look at it later also on the desk and on the desktop, but
should I go to the desktop?
Yeah, you can switch to the desktop.
I forced Georgi to use the mobile phone in the mobile first world, so let's go to the desktop version of it.
Exactly. That's the same. That's the same landing page we're using here. When you look at it and go to the login, and let's log in with the user. So that's the productive system of EULAR. We have our dashboard with my courses. Right now, I'm just enrolled in 2 courses of Totara. We have again other recommendations which are monthly changed and focused on different topics here, relevant for the users. EULAR is getting the information from Totara, from the reporting of Totara, what's the most viewed course, what's the most trending course, and just placing the relevant ones here according to topic. But when we go here on the desktop, we can see all the information. Don't be scared about the text. The physicians like to read and like to get a lot of information. As I say, everything is on mobile. You can use it on a mobile.
So is it also searchable, just out of interest?
Yeah, you can
search in that?
You can search it. You can search through the offers. Actually, the offers are here. I'll just open them.
So they will quickly find where they
You
want.
can quickly find the different offers coming from EULAR. Very interesting, the free learning materials and other free learning materials, as Jen said, for the patients, and maybe for the professionals and for the physicians, that will be more interesting. The online courses on different topics, which are part of the catalog, and the live courses and meetings, which are part of the system and managed with a very small team. I should say on EULAR. You don't need 20 people managing this. You need only 2, I think, or 3. When I go back to my course, I wanted to show you what's inside of the course. So Jen mentioned that there were a lot of topics which were broken down in smaller parts. These parts are then called modules in the professional language of the rheumatologist, and these modules are then converted using ADAPT and in e-learnings. I would like to show the modules on the phone because ADAPT is responsive, but you just get a quick look on what's possible. You can complete the module. That's the completion status here. I have not completed it yet, but we have in some ways here 12. In other courses we have 2 or 3 modules. Depends on the topic, of course.
Right.
Which we are using. Let's change to the.
So I switch back to the mobile phone then.
Yeah. So the same page.
So you're now switching from the portal, so to say, to the content, which still looks the same, right?
Which still looks the same. As you see, there's some introduction here in this topic. In the modules topic, we have ADAPT, and in 2 different packages. Let's look at the first one. There is ADAPT. You don't have to open it in pop-up. That was the main discussion. Coming with the newest update of ADAPT, ADAPT will be even better there on this side. But the discussion was a lot of healthcare organizations have pop-up blockers, especially the medicians working on field. They cannot open it most of the time. That's why we choose to integrate ADAPT as part of Totara, as part of the page of Totara, and you can use it. You can use it in the system. You can read or do your quizzes, self-assessments inside of the system. Talking about self-assessment, part of the self-assessments are made in ADAPT. Another part of self-assessment are made with Totara's quiz engine, which gives us a different option to make this self-assessment. There are about 101, I think, assessment made with Totara's quiz engine, which is a huge number for Totara's user scene, but with ADAPT are planned even more, because ADAPT is easier to use more interactive materials inside than the standard of the learning management system. And ADAPT is combining different topics even in each package. So here, for example, I have our main text. We have in-depth discussion as part of this package, and you can see my progress here. The progress bar is something also LearnChamp developed. So LearnChamp.
So on the right side, you mean, where you see the tick?
Yeah, it's ticked. I already read a lot of this topic. I can speak about fluently, and it's highlighted depending on. So that's scientific text, I should say. There are also other parts of the modules where there is even more interactive material inside. in the future we can use adapt for embedding video and doing interactive videos inside, more animation also. But that's
We
part
already
of.
have it in the main text if you go straight
Okay.
in right
See,
now.
so Jen knows.
Yeah.
We had a webinar with McDonald's some time ago, and
Meetings.
they showed some very interactive material also. I think that was also based on Adapt.
Not to continue.
I don't want to continue.
So there are several parts to this.
Just a second. In the main text?
No. Yeah, you could see this, I think. It's ICC.
Why I don't know it, because EULAR is using Adapt tutoring tool for building parts and for reviewing also these contents by themselves together with us. So they're using Adapt, and for filling up these materials, you can choose it.
See, so you can't see what's going on, but Jen took the page and knows exactly where to look at it.
So, for example, these are the pictures as part. You can get also your feedback straight away. It's giving us a lot of options to present everything. Adapt is used just everywhere. When you look it on a desktop, it looks responsive. It's not like the most standard authoring tools right now, which are slide based, coming back from the PowerPoint presentations back in the days, and that was the main reason we choose Adapt for this project.
Super. So thanks for the demo. I hope I didn't cut it off. Is there anything
No.
else you wanted to show, or?
If you're a professional or a physician, just log in. It's free. Take a look what's offered for you inside. It will be very interesting for this audience.
So basically, everybody could go to the EULAR offering and have a look at it.
Yeah.
Get a profile.
Get a profile. Look at the free materials. There are some videos with very famous physicians, like the president of EULAR. So just take the chance to look at it.
Yeah. So everybody can have a look at this. I especially like really how the platform and the content and the payment flows together. So it sounds easy, but
not so many clicks as you saw. We don't need to click 100 times in order to get to the content.
Yeah,
that was the main target.
And it looks easy then if it's done, but it's always hard to make it as easy accessible as possible. So a great look at the solution. Georgi, just a few words maybe on how you got there, so to say, from a process perspective, and then we also would be interested, of course, in Jen's perspective on this.
Well, we don't work in waterfall model in LearnChamp. We try to understand the customer, to understand his needs, because we have to look at the target groups first in our define phase to see what kind of learning objectives they have and what kind of requirements for the solution. It's a whole solution. It's not only learning management system or only content. We should integrate everything so well that the user doesn't feel in two different worlds when using the e-learning content in the system. As you saw, that's pretty good integrated with Adapt. After getting these requirements from EULAR, we have, and that's the most longest phase, the define phase. That was part of the project, and defining was done in several loops and getting the feedback from EULAR. Then we have the design phase. It's more about let's build a prototype. Let's show EULAR how are the users flowing through the system, what kind of clicks they have to make. Avoid 10,000 clicks. Let's make everything in 10. And the deliver phase is the most intense one. It's a bit shorter, but it's the most intense one, where we have to bring quality to the project. And the role of the customer, in this case, EULAR in this phase, is as important as in define, because without getting their feedback for each part of the system, the end result won't be so good. So that's the standard way LearnChamp is working with all of its customers. It's not only for this project, but if you work with us, you have to know that.
So if we come to the solution, I mean, we heard a lot about it already, right? We talked about the LMS, which is Totara in that case, about content that has been created with ADAPT, which is also an open source tool. We heard about the concept. What I found interesting is that I heard before that EULAR is creating courses themselves with ADAPT, with a team of authors. How is that going, and how are you supported? How did you get even started with ADAPT, so to say? I heard it's an authoring tool, but how did it work?
We came to a point in realization sometime in the middle of the whole planning that, our content need to be moved from one system to the new one. And we could continue uploading our PPTs, our documents, and our PDFs for doctors to see. And they can still learn it the old way, old traditional way, like a textbook way. But then we came along and understand that, hey, perhaps this is not what we were looking for, as there are more younger doctors coming in. We have other health professionals and also more students that we want to attract. Then obviously we wanted to change a new way of presenting the same content into something else. And that's where we stumbled upon ADAPT, and we had some discussion with LearnChamp again, how it was being supported. At this particular moment, it is at its baby stage, really. Most of our content are still on PDFs, PPT documents, because it's a lot, it's massive amount of content to migrate. But we made a little pilot, which you saw. It was a new imaging course. It was not all about text, but also integrating videos, integrating pictures, where there is slideshow saying, okay, this is figure 1. After this method, you move on to figure 2 and figure 3, etc., etc. And it wasn't about pushing information to the doctors anymore. It was about creating interactive clinical cases, where we gave the doctors a case study. Here's the situation. Now the question is, what would you have done if this was your patient? You know, and then there was a multiple choice, and then there was a feedback, etc., etc. So it wasn't a lot like reading a PDF. It was different. But we are still at the, like I said, at the very beginning stage. We work with a team of 380 something, close to 400 volunteering authors around the whole of Europe, some small parts of Asia, and some small parts of America. And they're everywhere. So we collect all these documents in-house in EULAR, where we work days and nights to put these documents into interactive formats. Again, like I said, it is the very beginning. We have a lot of human label manual work there, but we hope we could find a solution together in LearnChamp to reduce this work. And better connection between Totara and ADAPT. At this moment, it's still considered as at the back end separated, because you still first need to put in your information into ADAPT and then download it from ADAPT and put it into Totara, but that's just how it is.
You want the single click.
As a next step, actually, we are maybe jumping, but as a next step, we have some further plans using LearnChamp single click publishing for ADAPT and Totara. as you saw, that will be a continuous project. It's not cut off. We don't like to make a cutoff when we build such kind of solutions, because it's a lot of integration needed. It's important to listen also to the people who are using the system and changing the system according to their needs. That was also part of the implementation of the project. It was pretty short time for such kind of project, where using our define, design, deliver and working together with EULAR on a very short time, we did the first phase, which you saw right now, and we're working right now actually towards second phase, using more interactive materials, building more content with Adapt, changing also some user experience topics in Totara without big changes. But
so it's constantly evolving, right?
It's evolving.
It's a final solution.
It won't sleep and wait for the next 10 years for something to happen. Yeah.
What is maybe also a surprising fact is that EULAR is basically using 2 open source products. Was that helping or not helping? And I mean, any reasons? Was that just by coincidence that they're good tools and open source, or was that a driver also for the decision?
At first, it was a showstopper because everybody has heard that Totara was hacked in the UK. But again, if you look deep into the reports that of a hacking, it is not because of the Totara system, but more mainly on the integration on their email phishing, and therefore got hacked into one of the accounts, and therefore it got.
It was a hosting problem actually.
Yeah.
Social hacking.
In
social hacking. Yeah.
Hosting problem, and we offer actually for this project the hosting is being done by LearnChamp on the most modern servers in Europe. Both for Totara and Adapt, as Adapt ready to use. So security is our main goal for the project actually, because we have regarding GDPR a lot of user data in it. We have a lot of important data for EULAR in the system. So we're using the most modern hosting solutions we can find on the market for that.
Yeah.
But so it was a showstopper at the beginning, you said. How did you overcome this? Or
because we're a non-profit, after all, I think we should stand by the fact that there are freely available volunteers out there that create this system. And of course, the cost-wise, it's also quite attractive, and we need to answer to the people out there. And this was also then another thinking that yes, we are non-profit, we are quite cost sensitive, and we would like to keep this spirit of saying all the volunteers out there working on this system is just another kind of non-profit org out there, and we would like to support it too. And the fact that open source are open for everyone, so it's good that we can, join one hand to the other hand and to the other hand. Imagine Totara is like an octopus, it's octopus head, but we are creating several tentacles for it to move better in a sea of uncertainty, I would say. So
same for Adapt, where Adapt evolves constantly, and we're happy that that EULAR choose in a couple of weeks actually back there these solutions.
So the project sounds like it has been completed in 2 weeks. Maybe we have
1 week, yeah.
1 week, you can see. Just kidding, of course. So how about the timeline? How can we imagine that first phase, just approximately?
We had mid-December a scoping meeting in Zurich, where we have been chosen between a lot of other candidates. Then in January,
72 in total.
72, really?
And then we scoped down to 42, and from 42 to 20 people, 20 companies. and we eliminated, actually by right, Totara, for just Totara system, we have 5. So LearnChamp was one of the 5.
Right.
That means there were other people servicing Totara as well. And then, of course, it has to kick off. We have to work well with the team. I love Georgi. So we have to fight our way through. And I think at the end, it's also about the people where you chose the group. That was at our last decision. We want to choose Totara as an open source. That was one of the point. It's not that we are more favored to LearnChamp or to other suppliers that take care of Totara, but it was the feeling that LearnChamp gave us that we could be supported, and we are pretty nearby. Well, nearby, Europe is not too big. Vienna and Zurich is not too far away. And LearnChamp gave us a good feeling that we could go with them, and therefore, yeah.
As you see, it's about 6 months for this kind of implementation. It's a short period of time, and it's very important when doing such kind of project with a lot of technical and security-wise important stuff to synchronize your teams working together. Not only at LearnChamp side, which should be understandable, but on both sides, and giving your constantly feedback. And this feedback can be also negative from time to time, or very positive at the end, but you have to be open to the other side.
Yeah, it's a project, absolutely. So one last question, maybe we already had to look into the solution, but Jen, what's next? What are your plans for the future going forward from here?
We're gonna continue pestering LearnChamp. What, like we said, we had a goal at the very beginning of this presentation, and at the very beginning when I started this project with EULAR, and the main aim is still to become the world leader in education in the field of rheumatology, and to cover all 4 diverse target groups, and to make it as responsive as possible, as easy as possible, and as motivating as possible. Education may not be easy for anyone or everyone, and that's our main goal. I would say out loud for the field of medical doctors, don't get too excited. Give us some time, but we will get there. In a short 1 year, actually, by right, if you really think about the implementation time, it's only exactly 6 months.
Yeah, even fewer than 6 months.
Yeah, lesser than 6 months, I would say. And we have come a big step. But now we need to stabilize ourselves before we can move on to phase 2, phase 3, and then get it better and better each day. And like we say, we stand for our education is learning every day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. That's also a good handover to the key takeaways, really learning every day. And in any other pieces of advice that you would have for people who plan to have a similar project, what should they have ready when starting such a project?
Patience. Actually, no. Number of hours. Patience we see, yes. No, I think you should be ready for the biggest mess of your life, I must say, because you really dig into things that you never see. You must be very flexible. Sometimes Georgi comes back to me and say, hey, this really doesn't work, technological behind, you need to think, and you need to appease your doctor saying that, look, I know your content should be presented this way, but there is no technical possibility, you need to understand. And so we always have to try to come in a compromise situation that it works for both. I think that's also one reason why we could come so long and to work so well together in such a short time.
It's like any other digitalization project where you didn't have a lot of digital things in your company, and you have to take 6 huge books and make them in digital content, for example. So you have to make compromises, but our takeaways for LearnChamp are just listen to your customer and try to find the easiest solution, the easiest and easiest solution for the users in the system at the end. That's our approach to this project, and it will
the users in the focus.
It's user focused, and Jen is also a user in the system. She's an administrator, so not the expert kind of view, because I have an expert kind of view on both Totara and that, but that will be the wrong way.
Right. So thanks a lot for that. And when I look at the time, we are almost done. If you still have a minute, we're happy to take your questions. If you have to run to other appointments, of course, thanks for joining us today. Thanks especially to Jen from EULAR.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks also to Georgi, who worked in this project and led this from LearnChamp side. And yeah, look into your questions if there are any. Otherwise, have a great day. I forgot to mention for the questions, so you can, of course, write us a note or also directly call in.
Or if you don't have time, just write us an email. You can find it.
Absolutely. So I think we spoke too long.
Yep.
We have the hour completed. If any questions come up, don't hesitate, and there's also communication afterwards. You can certainly write us an email anytime. So thanks very much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.